Shalom. Good evening again. Well, I got another testimony here. This is I got 3 left. This one here is about cancer that I had, and the type of cancer it was a squamous cell, and I had it years ago. I don't know if you can see this big old scar coming down my head right here, but I had a dot that was up here, little tiny dot, like you took a pen and just put a dot on a piece of paper. That's how big it was, a little tiny thing. And that's been years ago. And I went to the doctor. He took care of it, told me what it was, and said, "Well, go ahead and take this off of you." And some time went by, a few years went by, and that little dot come back, and it was itchy. I'd scratch it and flake it off. It was like a little scab, and it'd flake off, and over a little bit of time it'd come back again, do the same thing. And so this went on for a little while. So I finally went to a cancer doctor, those people, skin doctors here, and he was looking at it, and he told me this, that, and I'd ask him, "Is it cancer?" "No, it's not cancer," and stuff. So this went on for a little while, and he treated it, and then I'd go back, and then he'd treat it again, and about a year or so later I'd go back and treat it again. And I'm like, "Look, enough of this." I said, "I can't keep coming back year after year and you keep treating this." I said, "What is it?" I said, "Is it cancerous? Does it need, need to have surgery?" "No, you don't need to have this." So during the process, I'm talking to him about this spot on my head and having these nickel-sized holes cut in my skin. First it started with a dime, and then a nickel, and then the size of a quarter. And I'm like, "Man, what is going on here?" So anyway, the woman that does the pathology test, I think that's what you call it, and so she's calling me at the house and telling me, she says, "Mr. Auer, you got to go to see a specialist." And I'm telling her, "I seen my doctor. My doctor's telling me I don't have anything. I don't have to have none of this." And she said, "Well, I'm telling you now, it's cancer. You got to go get it checked out." I'm like, "Well, I got to see him next week. I'm going to ask him about it." Okay. Well, this woman worked at the same building he's in. So it was his woman that was doing all this, checking me out. So I'd asked him about it. He said, "I don't know who you talking to, because this, that, you don't have this, you don't have that." I said, "I'm talking to your people. Your person is calling me and telling me to go do this." So we went back and forth, and he kind of got aggravated with me. He walked out the room, and I'm like, whatever. So a couple of days later, the woman calls me back again, and she's telling me, "You better go see a specialist," And I said, "Well, the doctor told me I didn't have this and that." And she said, "Just don't worry about him. I'm overstepping him. You got to go see a specialist." She said, "I'm going to call you one." And so I got me a specialist down in Charleston, Dr. Cook. And so I went down there to see him, and Dr. Cook starts operating on my head, looking at my head at first, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, we got to work on this. We got to get this out of your head right now." I'm like, full-blown fire alarm, bells and whistles going off and everything. And I'm like, "I just come down here to get checked out. Now you tell me I got to go in for surgery?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so I went in there, and it started out with cutting a nickel-sized hole in my head again. And then it went to like a quarter or 50-cent piece or whatever. And so they started working on my head. They cut my head open, and I think 6 surgeries later, I'll show you a picture of my head. Now, if you're squeamish, don't look until I tell you. You can look back at me again. But I have some pictures here. I just got 2 of them. I got a bunch of them, but I want to share with you 2 of them. Now, this is a picture of my head from the doctor's point of view. I'm laying on the table on my back, and he's sitting in a chair behind me, and he's looking right down at the top of my head. Now, if you're squeamish, look away. This right here, that is the hole in my head on the right side of my head. Now, that is 6 inches long by 4 inches wide. And what it done is I had to have that type of a surgery to take it out. So now I had to go see a specialist, which I thought he was a specialist. Now I had to go see another specialist to fix the hole in my head. Well, they put gauze and stuff in it, in that hole, wrapped me all up. I had to stay down in Charleston, get a room down at the hospital, and I mean at the hotel, and stay down there until I can get surgery the next day or two, emergency surgery. Well, it turned into a couple of days had went by before I could get in to see him. And the bandages, when they went to pull them out, were stuck to my head. My nerves and everything just started, attaching itself to it. Buddy, when he pulled that thing out of my head, oh my gosh. I was in another world. That's how, I mean, I didn't pass out, but whew, it was rough. Well, as some time went by, they was working on my head and operating on me, and whenever it's said and done, and I was out and come home, and then I was able to be coherent, because the first couple of days I was out, it was some medication, man. It just knocked me out. And I'm laying in the bed asleep. My wife's like, yeah. She said, I thought you'd been getting up and going to the bathroom and stuff, and I was out of it. I was in about a 3-day coma and didn't know where I was at. So anyway, she I was looking at the what the doctor had done when he took it off. What happened is they cut me. I don't know if you can see it, but right there, from the eyebrow all the way down the back, across my head down the back, and on this side here, coming down this way towards my ear, I have another big cut too, which they glued this back together with, I don't know, super glue, whatever they put on it. And right here in the front part, they glued it. But all this is up top here was left open. And I had, I think it was about 15, 16 surgeries later to get my head right. And I'll show you another picture. And I used to tell people, because people would look at me and I'd tell them, I said, man, I was juggling chainsaws, and if I missed it and it hit me in the head and it cut my head open. And people would look at me like, but I'd laugh about it and I'd tell them the truth. But I'm going to show you this other picture, so kind of look away if you're squeamish now. But this looks like a picture of somebody getting hit in the head with an axe. That is my head. That is my face. You can see from where it comes from the top of my eyebrow all the way down the back side of my head up here. And I had other pictures which I put them somewhere here at the house. I can't remember where those are at, but I have a lot of pictures of each time I had surgeries and stuff and what was going on. And it just, I was out of it. But it was a little tiny little spot of cancer that got in my head, and it just went crazy. And they said they got it all, but they treating spots around my face, around my eyes, and on both sides. And I'm like, I'm done. No more surgeries. You can treat all you want to treat till the day I die, but if that, a little spot up here, if that done all this, caused all these problems from one spot, and you're treating 13 to 15 more, I'm done. I'm done with it. But anyway, that was my cancer bout. I had to have treatment. I had to have medicine to take care of my head. They went down into my skull, and whenever they was doing my skull one day, I woke up on the table, and I'm talking to the doctors. And they're like, you should be asleep. Why are you up? And so I'm just talking like a carry-on conversation. And so next thing I know, this woman comes over and she's doing something with my IV bag, and boom, I'm out asleep. And I wake up later on, I'm in the room, I'm all bandaged up, everything's good. But I couldn't go outside the house for 2 years. 2 years. I couldn't go to church. Had to stay home. Doctor told me, said, if you go outside and you get infected, you can be back up here again. Well, I stayed home for a good bit. I mean, it was over a year. And I finally said, well, one day I felt good. And I said, I'm going to go back to church. So I go to church. Well, I got it infected. Whoop-de-doo. So next thing I know, I had to have another surgery. They had to take out what you seen on that picture there. That was the good part. The next part got all grassy, nasty and green, yellow looking, and pus running out of it. So I knew it was infected, so I had to go back down to Charleston. They had to take everything out again, redo it. It's nasty. But point of the matter is, the doctor tells you to do something, listen. But anyway, that's my little cancer issue. I'm healed over it. I'm doing fine. And I want to praise God for it. He's brought me through another one. You guys take care. God bless. Put the Lord first in everything you do. Bye-bye.